normality seems to be creepingly increasing in our lives. So obviously for the businesses that have closed and all the workers that have been dependent on it, this change is going to be welcomed. Obviously, we are, as a community, just keen to make sure that health is at the forefront of all our decision-making.
What are you expecting now that it looks as though from June 1, restrictions will be eased? Is it going to be full restaurants and hotels in the area? What's your forecast?
Well, I think a lot still remain closed while that 10-person in a place of business remains, because a lot of, for example, most restaurants simply can't function on those numbers, so they probably won't open. Most of the pubs probably won't as well. So I think until those things can change, we'll only sort of be on half mode.
So there won't really be much of a difference?
Well, look, the beaches will be available for people. Obviously, some of the shops are increasingly opening. So there is still plenty of, wonderful things to do when you're in Byron, but it's certainly not going to be, the 100% Byron that people may expect. What
about increasing the number of patrons to 20? Is that going to help?
Look, it just depends on the premise. I've spoken to some restaurants that sort of need about 30, because obviously to have something open, you need your dishes, you need your waiting staff, cooking staff. So there's quite a lot of cost to open the doors, so to speak. So every place has their sort of, bottom line and their break-even point, and that depends on what they're serving, how quick people can come in and out of their place, and obviously the 4 square metre rule has a huge role as well.
So what are they saying? What are the bosses of the top pubs saying to you at the moment, Simon?
Well, I had a meeting with the boss recently. Ultimately, the community has done and has been part of the wider Australian community, that we've done what has been needed to be done to keep each other safe and healthy, and so a lot of places are doing it really tough and are really clamouring for normality to come back. But really, as I said, everyone is following directions, having faith that those above us who are telling us, how to act and what to do are doing it for the right reasons, and then we'll adjust when normality comes back, and we'll welcome mat out for everybody, and Byron will be back as beautiful as ever.
Byron Bay, of course, not very far from the Queensland border. Should it reopen?
Look, we'd like it to reopen. Obviously, it doesn't. It's a bit of an irritant for us, particularly some of our residents who may need to get across to Queensland for non-work purposes. Obviously, people from Queensland can come to New South Wales, which when this pandemic first hit was our biggest concerns around the Easter period. I think it just makes sense that if somehow we can all cram into a plane and fly from Sydney to Byron, seems strange that someone shouldn't be able to drive 50 kilometres from the north to here. There's a bit of inconsistency there. Most people are adjusting to that border being closed, but I guess it would largely be a bit of an irritant to some, and for some people who are trying to connect with their family, whether they've got split parenting with their kids, it can actually be quite problematic. So it'd be nice to be at least consistent, I guess.
So, I just missed the bit of breakup at the start there, Simon. So is it irritating for the people of Byron Bay, is it?
Well, I think for some people it's not affected at all. It just depends on everyone's relationship with over the border. Workers have now got the right accreditation, so obviously sitting in traffic is irritating and can be problematic. Some families who are perhaps have separated and one half of the family lives over the border. Those sorts of things can be a bit troubling and problematic. We would like it to be lifted just so we can help get on with our lives, particularly because we're facing everything according to health, and obviously the health experts are saying that really is marginal at best as far as any influence.
Well, when it comes to tourism, the losses have been staggering. Queensland tourism is such a big industry, not just for Queensland, but the northern part of New South Wales, such as Byron Bay. How much of a hit has the businesses of Byron Bay had, and the last I checked, were there that many cases in the end?
Look, no. In fact, we've had the whole Northern Rivers has had 2 cases in the last 4 weeks. So really, we've really managed to shut it down. Look, the Queensland visitation to Byron in particular is massive. We have, over 1 million day visitors. The majority of them come from Queensland. So obviously, that's not affected because they can come to us. But when what we do know is that really at its height, for example, during Easter, we would normally have 80 to mid 90% occupancy rate. We had less than 5%.
Wow.
That's a massive difference. We would have had probably at least 90% of our shops in Byron Bay were closed. So, at peak holiday times to be closed is obviously, really tragic for those who are banking on it, literally to help get through the quieter times. But we'll bounce back because, we do wellness and a healthy experience really well. And they're the sort of trips and experiences that people are going to be clamouring for when they can move around a lot more easily. So we were perhaps on the deck and now we're on our knees, and I think we'll get back on our feet really quickly.